Welcome to the spoiler section of the podcast. This is a unique video on YouTube. It's part of the audio podcast at the end on Apple Podcast Stitcher if you listen to an audio podcast. If you haven't heard this already, we have a big subscriber goal. If you subscribe on audio, if you subscribe on YouTube, however you receive this podcast, please subscribe. It helps us out so much, and thank you for listening. With the holiday in the United States, this is going to be a special book talk section in that we're not going to have any light spoilers, any parts you can listen to and not worry about being spoiled too much. We're going to go straight into book spoilers. We're going to have some great book speculation right at the top, and then we're going to go to your feedback. So if you're listening to this and have not read the 3 novels in the Silo series by Hugh Howey, you may want to jump away and come back to us next week. I'm going to start with some speculation. So last week on the Book Talk spoiler section, we mentioned that the next kind of big character to die in the books is Knox, the lead person of Mechanical in the Down Deep. And there was questions of, would the show kill that character Knox? We don't have an answer. I haven't seen the screeners. I do not know if Knox dies this year or not. But there is an interesting clue in the images from the Season 2 premiere. If you look at the images from the Silo Season 2 world premiere, the actor who plays Knox, Shane McRae, he still has the Knox beard. He has the facial hair that his character Knox wears. If his character was killed in Season 2, would this actor still keep this facial hair? Now, I've only looked at IMDb, but this actor really doesn't wear a full beard in any other role. Yes, he could have been cast in a new role, which would have him keep the beard, but here, again, at the Season 2 world premiere, he's rocking a Knox beard. As I mentioned in the main part of the podcast, they are currently filming Season 3 of Silo. So, you see the actor, Shane McRae, wearing a beard like his character Knox wears. They're currently filming Season 3. Is it possible that Knox does not die in Season 2? And that's why he has the beard, is because he's going to keep playing Knox in Season 3 and needs this beard. That is entirely speculation, but I believe it's a chance that this could be one character who's saved from being dropped into a grave with apples thrown on him. Could Knox survive Season 2? You know what I want you to do? Speculate. Reach out to me at PHQ on all your social media platforms, or go down in the comments and tell me what you think. Are you happy that Knox may live? On some of these spoiler sections, we talk about, will the show cut Shift, the second book, which is all set in the far distant past when the silos are being built and created, and why they're being built and why they're being created. If this show's going to run only 4 seasons, how could they easily do Shift as part of the narrative? Well, they'd have to intercut it with the modern Silo world of Juliette. But will they do it, or will they cut it entirely? That's a question we've been asking. Candace gave us this feedback. I can't see them cutting Shift. They have to have some backstory, even if it's just a few episodes. Candace also asked, are they going to cut the kids from Silo 17? And Candace wrote that if the show cuts the kids, I'm going to be pissed, is what she wrote. Wow. Episode 3 implies that there are other people in Silo 17. Will it be the kids? It feels like it would have to be. Is the show rearranging it so we meet the kids before Juliette does her deep dive? That's the only thing that makes sense to me as a possible way this could work, is that we discover the kids, like in episode 4, 5, 6, or 7, and then she does the deep dive with the kids' help in episode 9. We'll see. Tim's Retro Corner weighs in on if they're going to cut Shift. And Tim wrote, it seems increasingly likely that they will cut Book 2 completely, or at least only have minimal references. But Tim notes that they are going to need Silo number 1, because that is a key to driving the end of the books. And Tim agreed that cutting the rope by the kids is probably more true to their characters than Solo's. And Tim thinks, hey, are we going to have another way to introduce them? Well, Tim, you and I are thinking alike, at least after episode 3. I'm thinking like you do. Tim says, I don't think Sims being Bernard's shadow would serve the story. Yet there's no one else seemingly in the offering on the show. Maybe there'll be nobody for Jules to talk to on the radio. What do you guys think? We may have signs the kids are coming. When are we going to hear the radio? A great person who's given so much feedback over multiple podcasts, I love this person so much, Zephyr wrote, I am worried they'll yada 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 the key events from Shift. Shift is my favorite book in the trilogy. The Donald/Troy reveal made me literally gasp. No idea how they could pull off that twist in the show. I'd love to see who they'd cast as the senator. Could be incredible with the right actor. I thought the Silo origination story was fascinating. We'll be very bummed if they skip it. Zombie Talion, again, I'm terrible at pronouncing everything. Hope I get your handles correct. They wrote, as far as Shift, I don't think they have that planned for the show, and we'll probably only get Wool, at least for now. They found Shift, compared to the first book, Wool, to have a slower pace, and all the back and forth time jumps may be tough to follow for show watchers only. Mr. Marvel wrote, Shift was a completely different story, which would require so many new members of the cast. Mr. Marvel says, I cannot see them adapting it, and even though I enjoyed that book, I think that'll be okay if the show doesn't do it. Something in the spoiler comments on YouTube we get a lot of is, well, okay, how will Season 2 end? What'll be the kind of big shocking thing of Season 2? The White Rabbit gave us this feedback where they come up with a theory that I think makes a lot of sense, and I honestly think a lot of other people are kind of hinting will probably be it. In episode 10, it will start with Donald in his office working and talking. Then it'll have him, leave the silo, and we think, oh, what's going on? Is he doing a cleaning? And he's just got the suit on just for fake reasons. He'll go outside, the door will open, and it'll be blue skies and bustling streets, and there'll be people everywhere outside. There'll be construction equipment. The audience will be like, wait, whoa, what? And then at a certain point, you'll see the year come up on the screen to tell the audience, hey, this is something in the past. Ooh, think it makes sense? Really smart stuff. Lucas, who I really haven't dived into yet because he hasn't shown up on the show yet in Season 2, a lot of people are giving feedback. Dylan wrote, the only way people are going to be okay with the changes they've made to the character Lucas is if they didn't read Dust. Sun Sin wrote, Bernard could still make Lucas his shadow to prove to everyone that someone close to Juliette could become a position of power, could become Bernard's shadow, and that could calm things down and get the Lucas character back on his book storyline. Sun Sin continues about something I read in a TV review that Juliette, her underwater adventure isn't until episode 9 of Season 2. Sun Sin wrote, that this silo, there's not enough place for the kids to go undetected from Solo if the water is up that high. Really good point. Joshua Jones wrote, they are making a massive mistake not following the books to the letter. Now, Inner Logic is really skipping to the last book with this feedback. In this bit of the feedback, you really need to know all 3 books. But Inner Logic wrote, the judge's request about the hot air balloon, like the character in The Wizard of Oz, I wonder if that replaces the drone, and they skip a lot of the 3rd book in order to keep Juliette as the main character. If you think about the microscope that Juliette's mom made, could they, have amplification to see, maybe I'll try to keep some spoilers free of the spoiler section for people who haven't read that 3rd book yet. But if you have, I think you know what Inner Logic is implying they might see with a super powerful microscope. I can't pronounce this person's handle. I believe it's Yggdrasil. Hopefully that's correct. They wrote, I'm not happy we're spending time with filler like the whole generator episode of Season 1, or 50 minutes spent on building a bridge to IT in Season 2, Episode 1. They feel that wastes time when they could do stuff that moves the story forward. Losing Lucas as Bernard's shadow was a huge red flag. Now, Trouble Follows gave us this feedback, and this gets confusing, especially if you haven't read the book for a bit. So Trouble Follows wrote, in the book, didn't Juliette first contact Walker on the radio? No. So the whole way this works in the book is there are kind of 2 storylines going on. First, Juliette meets Solo. She gets into the secret IT room beneath the server room in the book. She gets on the radio. She taunts Bernard. Because Lucas is Bernard's shadow, he's in that secret room, and soon he starts talking to Juliette. A little bit later in the story, probably not too far by the number of pages, but in the Down Deep, the rebellion is happening. The war is going on. The people in the Down Deep go to Walker and say, we need our radios better because we're having trouble communicating with our fighters, up 100 flights of stairs. So Walker starts working on the radio. As she starts working on the radios, she realizes that she can change the frequency, and suddenly, in a really great chapter ender, suddenly they start hearing other people. And it's like this deputy and somebody else. And they're talking about things that people in Silo 18, they're like, what are they talking about? Do you know a Deputy Jones, for example? I don't remember the deputy's name, but they're still like, what are they talking about? Who are these people? But they can only hear. So Walker's first fix, they're only hearing. And so it's a great, the people in Down Deep are slowly discovering their other silos. Walker keeps working on it, and then at a certain point, Walker hears Jules trying to communicate to Solo in the deep dive suit. So Juliette is in the deep dive suit. She's trying to communicate with Solo, who's working the air pump. Walker hears that, and then it's real crazy. So that's kind of the order it happens in the book, and some great cross-cutting. Walker needs different equipment. Now, Walker, remember, is an agoraphobic, won't leave their workshop, but because the battle suddenly comes downstairs, Walker has no choice but to leave her workshop. But by leaving the workshop, she doesn't have the parts and equipment she needs to be able to talk back on this radio to other channels. That means Shirley has to do some heroics. That's one of the great tense moments in the book, because you have this cross-cutting. Juliette has her problems, underwater with the air pump not working. Solo has his problem because he's been attacked. Walker and Shirley have their problem trying to get this radio to work. Once again, I really love this book. Hopefully, if you're listening to the book talk section, you've read it and you like it as well. Again, if I mispronounce your name when I'm reading your feedback, I apologize. I believe this is Kadei. They wrote, the whole Judge Meadows Bernard thing seems counterintuitive in many ways, given her ultimate desire to leave the silo, when Bernard is looking for someone to take over his role in the long term and keep the silo together. Wonderful point. Finally, Nesh wrote, I made the terrible mistake again of reading a good to great book series I enjoyed and then watching the TV product Hollywood churned out for the mainstream based on it. When will I learn? Nesh, if you've listened to these, I've been incredibly frustrated at times. And this most recent episode, even though it's really not anything from the book, the tension, the high stakes that feel like they got ratcheted up after episode 2 seemed to let's lower the stakes, let's lower the tension, let's lower the heat in the silo. I liked episode 3 a lot more. Hopefully, I'm going to knock on, I think this is a real wood desk I'm sitting at. I really think they can turn it around. Okay, that's it for Book Talk. Apologies, it's so short because of the holiday. I've got to run out and get over to Grandma's house. Once again, give me your feedback. If you have more things you want to discuss in the silo spoiler sections, book talk sections that we do, go down in YouTube, leave the comments, reach out to us on social media at PHQ. The word double, the single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters. I want to hear from you, and I'll talk to you guys next week.